Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome back to another Eternal News episode. I today finally want to catch up on reviewing the changes to the market that dropped yesterday, as well as the changes to Expedition and draft packs. Sorry that this took a while, this is overdue a couple of days. Now the changes were announced last week, but I was just very busy over the weekend with other things like the tournament that you may or may not have noticed, and so on. But now that the changes are here, it's finally time to catch up on them and let you know what I think. So let's dive right in. So first off, we have the cleaning up the market article that talks a bit about like the flexibility that classic markets added and how they have caused problems in the past, especially in Throne. With making decks too consistent, especially more combo-y decks like Endra, for example, a while ago and stuff like that. So they decided to make one big fundamental change to how Eternal's markets work, which is remove the non-black market. Now every market is a black market. There are no regular markets anymore, or rather there are no more black markets. They are just markets and they all work like black markets. For wording purposes, there's no need to have something named black market when there's only a single market, so it's just a market, but it works like the black market. The old market is gone. There are no more putting virtual 7 copies of a card in your deck by having 3 main and 1 in the market. So the only card you can have in your market are either cards you don't have in your deck or sigils. Sigils are the only cards, obviously, that you can still put in your market while having them in your deck to increase your consistency a bit there. But any like non-basic power sources you can only run in the main or in the market now, so you also can't run like 3 banners main and 1 in the market, for example. You would have to sacrifice all banners main to do that. All in all, I think that's actually a really good change. The 7 virtual copy consistency thing was kind of a big problem and made decks very consistent at doing things. I think the first time we saw this very prominently was when Howling Peaks came out, and suddenly every deck was like 7 to 11 virtual copies of Howling Peaks with 3 main and 4 to 6 merchants in the main, just dropping the card on turn 6 every game, and the card being so powerful that usually took over the game, which led to nerfs to the merchants and to the site itself. So that's something worth keeping in mind. Where does this leave us? I think actually the one thing that I dislike about this change is that it will leave some of the merchants by the wayside completely, because now they are basically mostly worse smugglers, since the smugglers, while having higher requirements since they need 2 influence, having a single of each is not a big requirement in this game, given how good color fixing is, and also that you usually won't keep an opening hand without both of your colors anyway. So that means especially Windchest Merchant is going to be really poor off. Ixtun Merchant is in a pretty bad spot too. Carrion Merchant might see some play occasionally still, because there is no Deadly Smuggler, and Deadly is a pretty solid ability to have attached to an otherwise weak body like a lot of the merchants and smugglers to make it have impact, as long as your market doesn't care whether you only have access to shadow cards or not, because that's the other big downside. Like, they have worse stats and they only give you access to 1 color, while smugglers give you access to 2 colors. So smugglers are almost always straight up better than merchants, both in stats and in access they give you. So the main merchants that we will still see is Auralian Merchant, because this card is still as good or better than most smugglers, even since it got nerfed. So this card is just very unique and very powerful still. So I don't expect this to disappear anytime soon, even with this change. And Yennefer Merchant is another option, because it gives you an Aegis unit in color combinations that don't have it, and even in color combination Huru, where you have a merchant that potentially has Aegis, Yennefer Merchant can still sometimes be better. But now it's closer and it's more likely for the Huru Smuggler to make it over Yennefer Merchant because of the change. So I hope maybe they adjust some of the merchants accordingly to make them more appealing, maybe revert some of the nerfs. Like, I think Ixtun Merchant could easily become a 3/3 again to be a bit more appealing. Yennefer Merchant could possibly become a 3-2 again to be more appealing and more of a competition for the Huro Smuggler, but not sure if that would cause some problems again. But honestly, if you look at the Huro Smuggler, which granted has some condition to be a 3-2 Aegis, but then he's a 3-2 Aegis, he gives you access to 2 colors, has the upside of being 2 faction against some removal, and also gives you a face Aegis. So I really think reverting the nerfs on these 2 would be very reasonable. Maybe giving a slight buff to these 2 and leaving Auralian Merchant as it is, because I think, honestly, even after the 2 nerfs the card received, it's still like so much better than the other merchants and most of the smugglers that I don't think this needs any buff to stay relevant. But I would really like the nerfs to be reverted on these 2 and maybe a slight buff on these. Maybe make this a 2-2 and maybe make this like a 2-3. Not sure if a 3-2 would be a bit too good probably, but a 2-3 might make it like decent. I get that they wanted to like make merchants more fragile 3-drops, but I feel like now that these merchants are like notably inferior to smugglers, and smugglers having a like much more impactful body, either in board impact or utility, that these changes might be fine. We'll see if something like that is going to happen in the future. But yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty good change, and that might also mean we get some more combo potential in the future, because now combo decks will not be as reliable, as consistent. You still have the option to run like 8 or 12 merchant smuggler decks with your combo cards in the market, of course, like in the past, but you at least don't have this like hyper consistency and access to multiple copies like before, because having only a copy in the market means you only have 1 copy. You can't draw multiples. So if that 1 copy is gone, it's gonna be rough. So yeah, pretty good change. Looking forward how this plays out in the next Throne ECQ. For now, we'll be focused on Expedition, which also brings me to the second article that I want to talk about. Not too much to talk about here. Basically, the only change to Expedition is we got the Tale of Horus Trevor added with all the 23 cards. That means we get Tavrot, we get Yedipult, we get Crimson Firemaw, and a couple of other cards. So I expect Tavrot decks to be one of the pillars of the format and be quite dominant and a bit limiting to the format. Not sure how I like this edition. I figured with the recent changes, the format was pretty interesting and pretty fresh, so we didn't really need a change yet, I think, for the upcoming ECQ, and I would have preferred them to wait on the addition of new cards until after the ECQ to shake things up again a bit. I feel like this is kind of suppressing an otherwise interesting format that is still in development and pushing it in a new direction. Like, I can already see a couple of decks that I thought were good and interesting that might just be bad now because of Tavrot decks. So that's pretty unfortunate. Like, for example, the mill deck that I have been playing on stream that I think is pretty good might just be too bad against the Bartholo, Tavrot, Aegis, Endurance army, for example, which otherwise might have been even a potential tier 1 deck. And yeah, I just don't get why they did this. I don't think that was necessary. Not too happy about it, but it is what it is, so we gotta work for it for the next ECQ. And yeah, this is the list of promos. Unless I missed something, these are not new promos, because they only added the Tale of Horus Trevor, not additional promos. Just to clarify, future promos will always be Expedition legal, which makes sense and has been that way in the past. Also, changes to the draft packs have only been weighting based, so they only changed the weighting of cards to balance the format a bit, but they have not added or removed cards. I'm not particularly involved in the draft. I haven't drafted in quite some time, so I'm not going to go over these changes in detail, but there's a full list where you can check out with stars, like how they are weighted and stuff, if you want to dive deeper into that. And I think that's like kind of an interesting way of balancing a limited format with this whole weighting thing. So let me know in the comments how you feel about these draft changes, if you're more of a drafter, and Of course, let me know how you feel about the market changes and the sort of hasty addition of the Tale of Horus Trevor and the questionable impact that Harvard will have on Expedition going forward. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this review and share your thoughts and opinions with me and how you feel about my view of things. And yeah, I'll be back soon with the latest news. For example, the hero promo that will come out later this month. And until then, I'll see you on my stream. I'm still streaming Eternal basically on every stream, just the first part of the stream and then later Runeterra. So for people that were wondering where I'm gone, I heard this a couple times. I haven't gone anywhere. I'm still streaming Eternal. I'm just not streaming Eternal the entire stream. I'm streaming Eternal and Runeterra. So yeah, see you on my streams, usually Monday to Friday, during the day, during the afternoon, German time. Currently, I have been a bit inconsistent with my streaming schedule due to a lot of stuff having been going on in the background, but I'll try to make up for it next week. All right, so thanks for watching, everybody. You know the drill. Comment, like, subscribe, and turn on notification icon to not miss out on future content. Share it with your friends, and of course, turn off your ad block to help support YouTube content and content creators. Even just leaving a like or leaving a comment already helps videos a lot to be picked up by YouTube's algorithms. So any activity on the video in addition to watching it is appreciated. So that's it again for this time. I'm your host ManuS. I thank you for watching and I see you next time. Bye.